For those of you rated under 1000, my goal in this video is to hand you free elo. My goal is to give you that rating, give you winning positions time and time again. I myself am a big fan of a chess opening system called the Hippopotamus Defense. I played it exclusively as both colors to reach the National Master title, and I've been doing a speed run with it that I'm currently in the middle of. And what I found working from the rating of 300 all the way up to right now, as I film this, I'm at 2200. What I've found is that so many players under 1000 will hand you the advantage, will hand you a great game within the first 3 moves. So oftentimes you don't even get the hippo, but you get a great game, and you're often winning by move 5. I have so many games on the speed run. Feel free to go check it out, in which case I am winning within a very short period of time. And today, my goal is to give you lines that you can memorize, lines that you can really grasp and understand, and lines that can give you winning games. Easy wins, free elo, all that. Okay, and if you're under 1000 rated, you will see this stuff. You will, time and time again. Now, I'm going to be doing this from the black perspective. White often pushes to e4. This is what I saw nearly every game under 1000. And what I'm recommending is starting out with the move of g6. Now, this is called the modern defense, and I don't know if maybe players, when they're watching YouTube videos, there's not a lot of YouTube videos out there on how to beat the modern defense. You see stuff on how to beat the CARO-KANN, how to beat e5, how to win against the Sicilian, for example, but you don't see a lot of videos on how to crush the modern defense because no one plays it. It's rare. The second you play this, you're taking them out of their theory and they're into yours. And by playing this move g6, the whole goal is to go with bishop to g7. And the Hippopotamus Defense, it's a system where you tuck your knights, fianchetto your bishops, all that. But just because you're playing the modern doesn't mean you have to play the hippo. There's a lot of other options available. But ultimately, if you're rated in that range, you're going to be seeing a lot of games that are not hippos, that are not full PIRC defense, that are not full King's Indian, that are not full pterodactyl, whatever it may be, because they're handing you the advantage straight away. Now let's cover the different ways that they can do that. So d4, right? d4, and I cannot tell you how many times I've seen this move e5. e5 played time and time again. The moment your opponent does this, you're better. Stockfish would rather be black. You've only made 2 moves as black. You've only done 1, 2. You're already better. Now, again, I don't know if maybe players see this and because they haven't seen YouTube videos on it, because they haven't studied for it, they just assume it's bad. Maybe they're thinking, okay, I'm going to take the space they give me. This must be a terrible setup, but this is a very strong setup. Many GMs have had great success with it. What we're going to do in this situation against this move and against nearly anything, we're going to go 1, 2, 3 with d6. Now, white should take. Most of the time they don't. Even if they do, we're better. But let's assume that they defend this pawn. Right now we have 2 attackers on it. 2 attackers. You only got 1 defender, so you got to bring defense in somehow. Knight f3 is very popular. What we want to do now, again, we're not sticking with the hippo. What we want to do now is take on e5 and capture off the queen on d1. And by the way, guys, I usually give PGNs to my Patreon supporters, but this video is covering theory so important if you're rated under 1000 that I'm going to put it down in the description below, so feel free to go check those out. But okay, here, look, again, we take on d1, so we end up seeing the move e5. Hey, let's go attack that guy. I'm not going e6 and putting all my pawns on light squares right away. In this case, let's attack that guy. And if knight f3, we're going to break open the d file. Now, they could take with the knight or the pawn. If they take with the pawn, we're not developing with something random. We are throwing in a check. Yes, queens are coming off the board. I know it can be scary going into the endgame. Endgames are very important for improvement. The better you get, the more endgames you'll see. And endgames can also help your overall game, not just that endgame segment, because you're getting ideas out of it. But ultimately, what we have here is a position where we can castle and white cannot. That's number 1. Number 2, white has a pawn on our side of the board. And that's great for us. This is just a target. It's not strong, it's not scary, it's just weak. It's just a target that they've pushed into our territory for us to attack. So let's do that. Here, You could play knight c6. You could play bishop to g4. This is my preference, to pin that knight. And notice, we're not just pinning the knight. We're threatening to take this. If it's our move, we could take the knight and mess up their pawn structure and then take, or just take it. This is a pin. Now let's say we see bishop to e2. Here you want to be careful. Don't remove the defender and then snatch off your free pawn, because guess what? They take a pawn. Uh-oh, your rook. So what do we do here? We develop. We take our time. We throw our knight to c6. And we add more pressure against this pawn. Let's say they defend it. Here is one of the biggest benefits of going into a line like this, if not the biggest. You can castle, and at the same time you castle, check the enemy king. Now, let's say they block. Here, there's plenty of ways of going about this, but ultimately they got two defenders on this pawn. We have two attackers. Let's remove that defender. Now, you can't take with the knight because it is pinned. And whether you take with the pawn or the bishop, either one, we can take on e5. You can take with the knight, great move. You could even take with the bishop, which is very tricky, by the way. If they take on e5, okay, we take back. Let's say they take our knight. They see our knight and they take it. That's a blunder. We're not taking this bishop and losing ours. We're going to take on f4. Right now, we're already up a pawn, and we're going to win another piece. d2 is pinned and attacked twice, and c6 is attacked as well. And I don't care what white does. There is no way to save this knight. It's impossible. You can save the bishop, but you can't save the knight there. Going back, you may be wondering, well, what about if the knight takes instead of the pawn, allowing us to make it so their king can't castle? Well, all right, let's get rid of the knight. Get rid of that guy, take on d1, and throw our knight out to c6. Yet again, threatening this pawn. If f4, I personally like throwing in a check and then another check. We have great development here. 3 pieces developed. They only have 1. I'm not counting kings. And again, just really overextended pawn structure that is giving us a lot of squares that we could look to take advantage of. For example, f5. You only have 1 pawn that can ever attack that square again. So that could be a great square for our knight to go on. Let's say the king runs to e1. We could take on e2, throw in a check. We just have too much activity here. We're looking at the king. If you run away, c2 falls and the rook is going to drop. If you try to save that pawn, okay, check. Double check, actually. The king's got to move somewhere, and then thanks for the rook. Absolutely crushing game there. And going back, let's say instead of pushing this pawn, giving us the check and potentially another one, we see bishop to b5. Well, this pins our knight. We don't want to get double isolated pawns. So, all right, we play bishop to d7. Now we're threatening this again. If you take on c6, we calmly take back. Great. If you play f4, this is a tactical theme that I really like. I think it's pretty... Knight takes e5. Brilliancy according to chess.com. We just took a pawn off the board there. That was a pawn there. We just took material. Now, if you take our knight, we take your bishop. We're up a pawn. If you take our bishop there, right? So again, you take the knight, we take your bishop. If you take our bishop, our knight flies away to safety. All right, so keep that idea in mind. Sometimes when you're pinned, you can go, you know what? There's something here. Let me get rid of that and then save my knight from being captured, because I'm not going to take with my king there and lose the knight, right? So run away with the knight, and you're in a great spot. Okay, so that's good for us. Returning to d6. Okay, if you see bishop to f4, it's the same kind of idea. Take and break open that d file. If you see f4, this is a little bit trickier because we take, and we don't want to give up a bishop for a pawn, right? We don't want to give up our bishop there just to break open the d file. So we play c5. Again, if you see f4 really holding on to that guy, and I even see this at the higher levels as well, take and then play c5. And you got great pressure up against this pawn. If c3, you can take, you can look towards knight h6 and knight f5. Notice, by the way, you're very close to castling. You have great development. White still hasn't moved anything on the back rank. They've been too busy pushing pawns every move, which is not a good idea. And if they take, it's up to you. The engine here actually likes check, looking towards that pawn on c5 and going from there. I mean, both of these pawns are very weak. not far behind that, according to the fish, is taking on d1. So take on d1, make it so they can't castle. Take your pawn back, go from there. They got doubled pawns. One of them is on your side of the board. They can't castle. So many benefits. Again, the second that your opponent plays this move, and you're going to see it if you play the modern defense, you are better. Black is better. You can play the move of d6 there. You want to break open that d file. Now, what if they take us? Again, that's what they should do. You got different moves here. Really taking with any of these is not bad. You can take with the c pawn, the e pawn, the queen. The engine does like the queen. Notice we have 2 pieces developed. They have nothing, so we're ahead in the developmental race in terms of getting everybody involved. We're also threatening this pawn. So if you just make some kind of random move, okay, thanks for the pawn. We're already up material. Let's say you defend it, we attack it again. Let's say you push it. You're like, you know what, I'm tired of all this pressure. I'm going to push it. All right, we put more pressure on it again. They defend it. Okay, let's add more pressure. Now we got 3 attackers on it. They defend it again. Okay, we make another threat. They run back. We castle. Now we have 4 attackers on this pawn. It's not making it. Okay, so again, guys, in this position, if you see the move of e5, you are absolutely better. No question about it. Stockfish likes black. Now, going back to the starting spot, again, you see e4, you see this pawn push. What about d5? Well, yet again, I recommend 1, 2, 3. Typically, this is how you want to play something like the modern. You want to put a pawn on a dark square and a light square to start things off so that you have good coverage on both colors. Now, let's say we see something like knight c3, for example. Okay, there's different ways of playing out a position like this. You can go with the engine move of c6. I personally, as a Czech PIRC player, I mean, I'm ultimately a Hippo player through and through, right? But I love the Czech PIRC, and I've played it quite a bit. c6 here, very nice move. You're just adding pressure. And guys, notice, by the way, with that pawn on d5, they've given you a fantastic bishop. They really have. I mean, going back, I can't tell you how many times, especially under 1,000 elo, your opponents will just, they'll make some kind of move and, okay, thanks for the rook. You're better. Okay. Now going back, let's say they develop the knight first and then they go d5. Again, you can still play c6. You can still go for this idea. You can go for e5 as well. For a while, this was my main recommendation. I don't know anymore if this is my main recommendation. I mean, I think c6 is definitely pretty strong, but I do play e5 to this day, and it gives me good results. If they take en passant, take back with the bishop. You got a great bishop pair. If they don't, we can often get a great kingside attack out of this, a main Hippo King's Indian defense type idea. Let's say they just develop normally. Okay, we play a quiet move. You develop again. Okay, we play a quiet move. You castle, we castle. Everything seems pretty normal. But guess what? None of our pawns have anything in front of them. And because we have a fianchettoed bishop, our king has that extra protection. It's kind of like we have 4 pawns in front of our king instead of 3. And here we're able to push aggressively. Now you play something like queen up, f4. The bishop's done. It's cooked. Not to mention, I mean, what a great attacking structure. Looking right at the king, pushing, tucking, going from there. You can get a lot of nice wins with this. Now returning, let's say they don't blunder away the bishop there and they end up taking. Typically in the Hippo, or the King's Indian or whatever, you want to look to the sides in this kind of locked up structure. Is there a pawn next to that pawn? Yeah, okay, take with the pawn. Pawns side by side are so dangerous. Again, you go here, all right, the bishop's trapped. You go here, okay, we have a fork. The pawns support one another so well. And it's very hard to play against pawns that are side by side because they just can't put anything here. It's all taken away. Now, can white attack us on the king's side? Not really. They don't have a fianchettoed bishop. And there is something blocking this pawn on f2. So black there is in a much better spot to play attacking chess. Again, flipping the board, going back to the beginning. If you see something like this and you play e5, good move. You're ready to take back with your bishop. I'd say play quietly, right? Don't play this too early. You don't want to show your cards too fast. Okay, play quiet, just, calm moves, and then eventually play f5. And you're in business. You're in a great spot there. Okay. Now, the last thing that we need to look at, and I got this so much in the speedrun, go check those videos out, my Hippopotamus Defense speedrun playlist, which again, most of the time under 1,000, I didn't get a Hippo. But again, they just handed me the advantage. I'll take it. I got this so many times. So let's say E4, G6. I don't, again, my best guess is that players just think this is a mistake, so they go for Scholar's Mate. I know that players do that at the beginner elos anyway, but it just seemed to be at such a heightened statistical rate. We go Bishop G7. Now here with Queen F3, we can't do that, right? That would be not good. So, okay, we make a rare exception here. We go 1, 2, and then 3 to stop that bishop, okay? Before that, I don't really care. Like here, if we see D4, yeah, D6 is fine. But with the queen on F3, okay, fine. There's actually a threat there. Let me slow that down. Now let's say knight H3. Very common online, very common move. D6 is what I play as a Hippo player. And 30% of players on chess.com under 1,000 play knight G5. Okay? They just hand you their knight. I won multiple knights on that speedrun. Now, let's say they push to D3 first. You could, as a Hippo player, tuck your knight right now. I'm not the biggest fan of it because then you got to deal with that checkmate, and the best thing you got is castling. I'd say, you know what, at that point, okay, I'm actually a little bit worried about that because a bishop defends it. So I'll play H6. But before that, before this bishop supports the knight, yeah, I'll let you jump in there. I don't need to play H6 right now. I'll see if they're going to make the mistake that 3 out of 10 players make in handing us a knight. Okay, we take it. 22% of players under 1,000 on chess.com play D3. Thanks for the bishop. I think I had 2 games where I took all of this off and took the rook too. I mean, it's just crushing. And 24% of players push the D pawn. Again, take the bishop. You're looking at the rook. If queen D1, you could go for more material. I'd say, you know what, guys, you're up 6 points. Trade down. Trade into an endgame. You're up 7 points. Completely crushing, resignable for white. Play a good endgame, trade down. You're going to win this thing. Okay. And going back, if you combine the 2 stats, I mean, nearly half of players here are pushing this D-pawn. And we take. Now, even if they don't, it doesn't really matter. We're already up a piece. So, great. I mean, we're already winning. But, again, guys, for those of you under 1,000 elo, I highly recommend trying out this move of G6 and Bishop G7 with the modern. So many of your opponents are going to quickly push this pawn to E5, which is giving you the advantage, or push the pawn to D5, which is giving you equality, or they're going to go for Scholar's Mate, which the second they do this, Stockfish likes black. It's only the 3rd move. We've made 3 moves, and we're already better. And again, if the knight goes to H3, it's probably looking towards G5. Players are really trying to get a quick, cheap little Scholar's Mate in. See if they're going to give the knight. They might. All right? If they go D3 looking to support it, okay, fine. We won't let you in there at all. And we play chess from that point. Hope y'all got something out of this video. Again, I don't usually do this except for Patreon supporters, but I will leave the chess.com PGNs in the description below so that you guys can go and memorize these lines, really grasp them, understand them. If you're under 1,000 and you memorize all of those lines, you will win many games because of it. You'll get a lot of winning positions out of that. And yeah, I'll see y'all soon. Quick reminder for those of you that have been following the channel, June 30. Okay, use that discount code. There's not much time left, only a couple days. Use that discount code to get 30% off on any or all of my online courses. You can go down to the link below in the description or the pinned comment. Talk to y'all soon. Peace. I wanted to finish this video out by giving a shout out to my Patreon supporters, including Walter, Rob, Ray, Roger, and Jerry. I appreciate y'all a ton, as well as the rest of my Patreon community. If you guys haven't checked out the Patreon before, make sure to go check it out. There's some exclusive benefits that you gain by becoming a member, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.